It's starting to get some attention again.
Hmm.
Reports, information, suggesting a bit of an uptick in COVID-19 cases within China.
That's right. And our goal today really is to unpack that core message. What does this information about rising cases actually tell us?
Exactly. Let's try and get to the heart of it. So, okay, we're hearing about rising infections in China. For you, the listener who's maybe been tracking this on and off, what kind of initial thoughts or maybe concerns does that spark?
Well, the most immediate thing really is it points to more community transmission, more of the virus circulating.
Right. SARS-CoV-2.
Yes. And, historically, sometimes these increases have coincided with new subvariants becoming dominant.
Oh.
It's always sort of in the background as a possibility, even if this specific info doesn't spell that out.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's a familiar pattern, potentially. But here's maybe where it gets, well, more significant. Even if we don't have those details, no specific variant named, no changes in policy mentioned in this particular source.
Mm-hmm.
What are the kind of immediate, maybe broader thoughts when you see infection rates possibly going up in a place like China? So populous, so connected.
Yeah, that's the key point, isn't it? The interconnectedness. A surge anywhere, especially in a major global player like China, it can have ripples.
Ripples beyond its border.
Exactly. We've seen this play out before. More transmission means more chances for the virus to mutate.
Which could lead to new variants.
Potentially, yes. Variants that might behave differently, spread differently.
Mm-hmm.
It has wider implications, potentially for everyone.
Absolutely. It really drives home how linked global health is. Something happening geographically far away can still matter. So for you listening, this kind of underlines why paying attention to these global patterns is still important.
And it also brings up a crucial point about interpretation, doesn't it?
Sure.
Well, the information indicates a trend, an upward one. But crucially, it often lacks detail on things like how severe are these cases?
Right. Are hospitals coping?
Exactly. Or which groups are most affected. It's a signal, an important one, but it's just one piece of a much bigger puzzle.
Precisely. It's like seeing smoke, but you don't yet know the size or source of the fire. It tells us to keep watching, to look for more information, but it's not the full story itself.
Not at all. We're getting a snapshot, maybe an early warning of a shift, but the picture is definitely still developing.
Yeah.
But what's interesting, I think, is how even this quite limited piece of information serves as a reminder.
A reminder
That we still need global vigilance. We need to keep monitoring these infectious disease trends. COVID-19 has changed, evolved, yes, but it hasn't completely gone away as a public health consideration.
No, definitely not. Okay, so let's try and wrap up this deep dive then. The core piece of information we've examined today suggests a current rise in COVID-19 infections within China.
That's the essence of it. The available data points to a trend that, well, it warrants awareness, continued observation.
Right. And keeping that in mind, here's something to maybe think about after this. We talked a lot about interconnectedness. So really consider what are the wider implications when we understand infection trends happening in any one specific region. And how could, or maybe should, that knowledge shape our collective thinking about global health preparedness?
That's a really good question to leave people with.
Definitely something to mull over as we all navigate, what comes next.
Yeah.
Staying informed these days, it feels like a constant chase, doesn't it?
It really does. There's always something new demanding attention.
Well, today we're digging into something specific that's been popping up. Rising COVID-19 cases in China.
Right. And given how we all get our information now largely online, our aim here is kind of to mirror that process.
Yeah, we're trying to see what picture emerges just by, gathering the information that's readily available online about this situation.
So simulating how many of us would try and understand what's actually going on.
Precisely. So we've looked across a bunch of online sources and, well, the consistent thing is definitely an uptick, a noticeable rise in COVID-19 infections there.
Yeah, that baseline seems pretty clear across the board.
Okay, so let's unpack that a bit. One thing that really stood out, mentioned quite explicitly in some places, is this active effort.
The effort to gather comprehensive information online.
Yes, exactly that phrase. To really sort of get to grips with why this might be happening now.
Which is interesting in itself, isn't it? This reliance on the digital world to build understanding.
It really is.
It makes you think about, well, how good a picture can we actually get from potentially scattered online reports?
That's a great point. And we see that reflected where one source directly states the intention is to, let me find the wording, Provide a thorough understanding of this developing situation.
Through that online information gathering.
Right. Which really highlights how much weight is being put on these digital sources for insight.
So the process of finding out is almost part of the story itself.
Absolutely. It's not just the case numbers, but this active quest for online information to figure it all out.
And speaking of the numbers, the core concern that keeps surfacing is, well, it's straightforward, isn't it?
The growing number of infections.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the headline, the main point repeated again and again.
And naturally, when you hear growing numbers, your mind immediately jumps to
Potential impact, right? Strain on hospitals.
Yeah, exactly. Or new variants, perhaps. Or maybe questions about how well current measures are working.
So that sheer volume, the number itself, seems to be the immediate trigger for this whole information gathering push.
It's the primary driver, yeah.
And it's not passive either. That's another thing. The sources we saw really emphasize an active effort to become well-informed.
It's not just scrolling headlines.
No, it's just people are trying to, dig a bit deeper, understand the nuances, and they're using online resources to do it.
And that active pursuit, it's crucial, really. It shows a proactive stance towards understanding a health situation as it unfolds.
Sure.
But it also brings up that question again. What does being well-informed actually mean when the internet is your main window? Are you seeing everything?
And can you judge the quality of what you're seeing? Critically evaluate it.
Big questions.
Okay, so pulling it all together then. Our look at the online sources confirms, yes, there's currently an increase in COVID-19 cases in China.
That's the core finding.
And significantly, a big part of the narrative around this, reflected in the information itself, is this deliberate effort, gathering comprehensive info online.
To get a thorough understanding of what's developing.
And fundamentally, what those growing infection numbers really imply.
Yeah, the digital space becomes both the news source and the place where people are actively trying to make sense of it all.
So what does this mean for you listening? It really makes you think, doesn't it? About relying on online information for these big global events.
The power of it, but also the potential pitfalls.
Yeah. It really underlines how important that conscious effort is to be thorough when you're gathering your own information and to really scrutinize the sources.
Definitely. It leaves us pondering, how do we best navigate this massive sea of online data to reach a truly accurate understanding of complex global issues?